So welcome to Conversations with Melissa. Today, my guest is Stuart Cohen. We're going to be talking about unshamed. That sounds like a word we invented. There are a couple of housekeeping things. If you have questions, please use the Q&A tool, and I'm going to keep an eye on the chat. We will take your questions as we go, because it's hard to think when you have one thing you just want to know. So we know that. Let's say a little bit about our host and sponsor, RenaFi. So thank you to RenaFi for putting this series on. RenaFi provides research-based, practical financial education. Our members learn better money strategies based on behavioral finance science. At RenaFi, we teach about the underlying drivers of our behavior. That knowledge leads to better decisions, and better decisions lead to an improved quality of life. Visit renafi.com and discover how you can experience financial wellness. Okay. So as I mentioned today, my guest is Stuart Cohen. And Stuart and I have never met in person. We've only met in the last year in 2022, but we were kind of fast friends. There's just a certain, where we connect and really feels like a meeting in the minds. I feel very heard. And when he says things, I mean, even the little stories we were sharing before we started about the noise canceling headphones, it's like a parallel universe in your house to my house.
Yeah.
So that's one of the good reasons to have Stuart on. And so he's an ADHD coach, which is a second career. And I want to get right to the meat and potatoes of what brought us here today, which is unshamed, the opposite. What is the opposite of shame?
It's not what the dictionary says, because it's too extreme, right? It's if you look it up, it's the opposite. It's being loud. It's being in your face, right? It's bloviating, and we don't want to be the opposite of shame. So I believe I'm putting forward that the opposite of unshamed is shine, shine, shine. Because if we can unshame some of these things that keep us anchored, that keep us stuck, that keep us boxed up and keep us from growing and experiencing all the joy we're capable of experiencing and bringing to others, then we will shine, and we will also be a beacon for others. But if we stay in this state of unshamation, I'm going to create a whole dictionary of words here, then it's hard to shine, because we kind of we create a little protective bubble around us. And that's sort of, that's where I'm at with unshame and shine.
Well, it's very interesting that you've got shine, which implies light. There's light in there. And also that something about shame contains us, right? It holds us back, I hear you saying. And it sounds like embedded in how you're talking about it, that it makes distance between us and other people.
Indeed, it does. Because we will second guess how we should act, because maybe the last time we went after we were with that person, let's say, we're like, oh no, did I do this wrong, say this wrong, think this wrong, do something wrong, and next time I'm going to be perfect. But then the next time comes and oh no, and then we fill the chatterbox, right? The chatterbox in our head is going. You screwed it up. And you didn't, right? So the problem is we paint ourselves, we create a narrative in our own heads. We're creating the narrative that's telling us, and I don't mean to use the word screw up because that's strong words, but hey, we're talking to each other here. And I'm a guy all about adjectives, man. I love adjectives and verbs, I don't need nouns, right? We paint ourselves into a picture that we're unworthy. We're less than. We messed up and not going to do it again, not going to go there. We overprotect ourselves because we're overthinking the issue. And that's what shame does. It smalls us, I think that's that strikes me as powerful. It smalls us, right? And everyone who's with us right now, yeah, whether it's popping into your head right now, an example, or you got to think, whatever, this is because we perseverate, which we could talk about later, but it's because we overthink, right? Our brains can run so fast and spiral and be in an echo chamber that we just can't set ourselves through. We can't step outside. And so we put shame upon us and it limits us. That's where we allow ADHD to limit our beauty, our growth, our light, our joy.
You're talking about the inside our mind voice, and I thought I heard you say something like we made it up. And sometimes we feel like I saw that, even the example we were saying in our chit chat. Oh, I thought I saw eyes rolling, right? And then what does that mean? And then I'm offended, right? So there's like we could be triggered, right? And then we sort of have a whole litany of what happens when we feel offended, right? And get your dander up. But I thought I heard you say something like is any of it really happening outside of us? That came into question the way you were talking about it.
Right.
Is that an element?
Yeah, it is an element. And I want to give you a real example with my partner, with Kimberly, my wife, because she hears, she hears it all. I can do something, say something, everything could be seemingly fine. And then we get back home or in the car or whatever. And she could see it in my face that I am nowhere present. I am gone. I am so far inside my head, overthinking something that I think I did, think I said, rub somebody the wrong, whatever. And we have this really cool way of communicating so Kimberly will actually say permission to share something with you, because sometimes we're not ready, Melissa, right? We're not ready to get feedback. And sometimes I'll say to her, no, I need my space. Thank you. Give me a hug or just give me space. I'm not ready to hear yet, to receive. I need to process. I'm processing. And then when I'm ready, I'll say yes. So basically she has permission and it becomes a safe space, and she'll simply say, and it's not one time, it's been many times. She'll say, who are you to think that these people are sitting around talking about you, that you are the center of your universe? What are the exact words? Hold on, I wrote down the exact words. It's just so perfect. It's like she nails it here. She says, don't worry about people. Don't worry about what people are thinking about you. They're not. And there's a sting to that. There's a little sting. Oh, what do you mean they're not thinking of me? I want them to like me and love me and find me funny and humorous. I want to be with me. I want to, hang out. Hold on here, Stuart. Hold on there. This is different now. This is this self-imposed or imagined rejection that you messed up, and you didn't. You're you. And she's helped me to learn in books I've read and just practice and working with coaches she says, you do you. I kind of like you own you. I own me. And if I blurt sometimes, they say something goofy, silly, and I certainly don't want to be offensive. I really work on that, but you don't like me. That's okay.
You've already made this whole journey. I feel like we were still just trying to describe the shutdown, the being small. It's hard to stay in that space. It's so uncomfortable. And I see in the chat, shame shuts us down, and people really struggling with this worthiness. And I feel like I wish I could remember the statistics, but there's those stats about ADHD kids getting some larger number of not positive interactions with adults, right? Maybe too excited about a topic, but these things, what this worthiness just to be yourself feels like, we must have got a lot of messages that we weren't okay. Right? I mean, it's yes, we might have an internal, we might have made something up in the moment, we might have been triggered by something, but the worthiness feels learned. But I'm just saying for myself that I don't want to generalize for all of us. Does that feel real to you?
Yeah. It's about especially as we age, right? We end up staying tethered to those negative experiences, right? That's a key word that we use a lot in coaching. That we as soon as we have another experience that's similar, let's say, we end up tethering to something that was negative, and we go right back there. We feel that same shame, and then it sort of it multiplies. That's why we're in this echo chamber, and that's one of the science and arts of coaching is to sort of retether. But and when we are shamed like that, what can happen, Melissa, is that we stop being our authentic, true selves because we feel like, you know, we call it the imposter syndrome, whatever you want to call it. We feel like we have to be a different person around different people because we're ashamed to be who we really are, our true, beautiful selves. And that takes work. That takes energy to be just a little bit fake, a little bit inauthentic when we can't be who we really know we are.
But that's the thing is a lot of people are pretty tuned in to when we're to anybody, to an inauthentic thing, that there's just something where it won't resonate, right? Where people say, you know, there's something, you're making a face. But this inauthentic. Anyway, I'm going to tuck that back in because I think I'm early on my part. But I see in the chat this delusions of grandeur, this feelings of unworthiness, and also agreement. Yes, other people are too busy thinking about themselves to notice what we did, that we said, oh my gosh, I embarrassed myself, or I said something dumb. And I'm never doing that again. I'm never going to that class because I walked in late. I'm never, or I'm never going to have lunch with that women's group again. I'm never going to see them because I said something dumb. I did something dumb. I tripped. I love the things that are just clumsiness that we can't really solve. We're gonna be shamed by clumsiness. I mean, that's kind of beyond our control, obviously, or we wouldn't be so clumsy. I mean, speaking as a person who's always holds the rail when they're walking downstairs.
Good. So can I give you an example, please. Client example, of course, yes, would remain completely anonymous. But in this case, this was a shaming over this person's inability to complete their master's 3 times and a lot of money to go back and try to get the master's that this person had always dreamt of, wanted it. And this person told me that there was nobody else, no family, not this person's partner, that was putting the pressure, giving them shame. It was a perfect example of a self-imposed shame. I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough. I want this, and I'm never going to be able to get it. I just can't do it. And so we picked it apart. You know, I get really granular because that's big, right? That's big. I'm not smart enough. I'm not good. I'm never going to get that. I might as well just give up. And thankfully, they didn't give up. In this case, went to a coach. And when you get really granular, so I'm skipping all the details, you find out what those little details are. And one of them, and I'm just going to say it here, one of them was writing anxiety. Writing anxiety. I don't know if anybody with us today has writing anxiety. This person loved writing and could do it, but to get the engine started to write and finish a paper or a thesis or whatever was seemingly impossible. And every time it was just easier to say, I can't do this. I don't like myself. I'm angry at myself. And they would beat themselves up and just pull out and withdraw. So much shame over the money, so much shame over the failure. And in this particular case, when we talk about tethering, every time they would sit down to go write again, they were tethered to the failure. They were tethered to the angst. They were tethered to the stress, the anxiety. I can't do it, haven't been able to do it, not going to do it, going to fail again. Guess what happened? That's what manifested. That's what happened until we're able to retether. And I'm talking to everybody here, whether it's writing or whether you've something you've always wanted that you feel you want to achieve. What's the negative that it's tethered to? And we talked about that one time, dozen times, where they were able to sit and write beautifully. They were proud of. They were all of a sudden the frown turned to a smile. It's that we call it the aha moment, Melissa, right? And in that moment, this person is not even looking at me anymore, looking up and saying, oh, I wrote this. It was beautiful. It was great. And oh, wow, the energy in the room changed. Negativity turned to positivity. And so the work there, and this is my final note on this example, was that when it's time to sit down and write that next paper, because they went to go graduate again, tried it one more time, going to give it one more go. This person stayed tethered to that success at writing. And I'm here to tell you that there's good news. They graduated. They did it. They did it.
Wow.
Yeah. And talk about feeling empowered in the rest of this person's life to have overcome something so big that everyone on the outside was like, you feel bad. You have a little sympathy, right? It's not shame, it's sympathy. Oh man, look how hard they're trying. But now, this feeling of accomplishment gives lifts to so many areas of your life. It was finally unshamed. And now this person can shine.
It's interesting. There was a lot of people in the chat when you said this fear of writing the blank page. There were people who had some grad school experiences and other people chiming in. I've never applied to grad school. To get in is an accomplishment in and of itself. But I look at people doing social media and I think, could I really have something that's that significant to tell everyone who I ever met today? So I'm very intimidated by it. It resonated the same way as the writing a paper when you said it. So it's interesting that kind of holds me back. But when I'm talking to people, I feel like, once we're in a conversation, surely I have things to say. So it's interesting dichotomy. Yeah.
I just want to make a quick mention here. I started to do Instagram, right? As I pivoted to my new career path, not my passion, but my purpose. And I'm like, what am I going to do? Am I going to be like everybody else on Instagram and Facebook, with the reels and all this kind of stuff? What's my message? And I said, my message is just going to be me talking for 15 seconds or a minute and a half, whatever it is, about something I'm experiencing for real. And I'm working. And now that, which I want to get to in just a second, I'm focusing more on the unshaming part, that I'm not firing it up saying, complaining and whining and crying and stuff like that, because that would be easy to do. Start a pity parade. Yeah. I've done that before. Yeah. And I'm capable of doing it again. And I don't want to. I don't need to. So just the other day, I was feeling, and you knew this, Melissa, because I couldn't get you my write-up, my description. I was having a bad hair day. So I knew I had to go to my toolbox. Stuart, what are you going to do? music's not working for you. I did some tapping. I do EFT. That wasn't working for me. I said, I'm going to go out for a walk. I don't want to leave this house. It's hot as heck out there in Memphis, Tennessee in August, September. I'm going for a walk. And I went for the walk, and I had the phone there with the reel. I did a little reel saying, I'm not feeling it today. I'm lost. I'm confused. I feel shame that I'm not productive. I'm not delivering what I promised to do. I'm not getting stuff done today. I'm down on myself, and I'm out for a walk. Today, I'm out for a walk. Today, this is going to be my biggest accomplishment. And you know what? It was two things that happened: being out in nature, being physical, moving, get the dopamine flowing, but also, so this is a key to unshaming, talking about it, giving it light, taking it out of the darkness, lifting the blanket off it, opening up the closet of the shame I'm feeling, saying, hey, look, world, it's going to be unshamed now. I'm having a bad hair day, but I'm doing something about it, and I'm going to give myself grace. Mm-hmm. This is me. Reminds me of that.
Right. Being just how you are. Right.
Yep.
That's tricky. When we're down, especially people who are very upbeat, right? I saw an ad for something where they called it smiling depression. But it's been a tough few years. So, you can only smile so much through it. There's some really interesting things in the chat. I just want to make sure we come around to those. So your coaching kind of question. What's the negative I'm tethered to? People are kind of discussing that. I see it being that in quotes. Can you say more about what's the negative I'm tethered to? Maybe another client example.
Yeah. So we don't come out and ask that question directly. We're having a conversation, and we need to sometimes, unfortunately, or fortunately, we need to go into that zone of negativity, and it's going to be sad before there's the aha moment. Sometimes there's we're being really authentic and raw. That's the word I'm looking for. RAW. We're being really raw together because it's a safe space, a safe place, judgment-free zone. I become their, we'll use this words later, I don't want to forget to say this, I am their perspective partner. Their perspective partner.
Perspective. It's a perspective, right? You're working in that space, right? And you're trusted, and it's a safe space. I think that that's an important distinction to make, that it's a judgment-free zone, that there's that confidentiality. No one's going to hear about it after the fact. People can bare their soul and tell you the tethered thing, and it's safe to be there with you. And then you're going to bring some coaching elements to it so that to help them move forward.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's talking about those negative self-shamed or shame-plagued feelings. And then asking other questions, going a little wider and saying, have you ever written something that was great? Or I'll give you another example. Another client has this enormous anxiety and fear about being out in public with their partner. Why? Because they are bubbly, outgoing, gregarious, extrovert. I can give you every synonym in the book. And the thing is, this person feels that it's intimidating to their partner, so that they're in an Uber or they're out for dinner. And some of us ADHDers, because I can really relate to my client, we love talking to people. We're conversationalists. How's your day? We talk to the cash register people. We talk to the Uber driver. Sometimes maybe we shouldn't, but we just talk to everybody. Mm-hmm. We like putting a smile on their face, but the challenge is this. My client, they would give themselves shame that, oh man, I overtalked, I overspoke, I overstepped my line, and they go back home, and then for hours. This is another one of the consequences of shaming. Getting into this perseveration echo chamber. We're not present. You miss out.
I'm going to interrupt you. Can you explain the word perseveration for us? I just want to make sure we're all Because I'd heard that word, but it doesn't, I don't know why it won't stick in my mind. Can you just
it's a fabulous
define
word.
it, please?
It's a lot of syllables. Took me a long time to be able to say it properly, but perseveration. So basically, perseveration is when we, simply put, we overthink, like in a negative way. We end up in a spin cycle of overthinking and we can't pull ourselves out, right? So the actual, I just wrote this down so I can use the dictionary words. Uncontrollable repetition.
Okay.
Uncontrollable repetition, the tendency to continue or repeat an act, right? Now, the other word is ruminate. There's ruminate, perseverate. By the way, ruminate, 7 letters, great Scrabble word. Never used it yet. One day, may I?
You crack me up.
My wife and I play tense games of Scrabble. She's so much better than me. Every once in a while, I get a 7-letter word, 50 points, and I do my dance. But I have so much fun. In any case, because she knows all those little words like ZA, ZA. Those little, in any case, how I digress. I'm going to get a shirt. This is how I digress.
I saw something in the chat here about making mistakes at work, being overwhelmed, right? There's some things where we have a facility we're kind of good at, right? And at work, they'll be like, oh, well, you're so good at this thing. Why don't you, we'll send you all the customers that are difficult, or we'll send, we're going to give you all of that pick and pack work. So, it's fine when it's got one customer, you have 5 or 10 minutes, right? There's nobody behind them to wait on them. But then when there gets to be overwhelm, right? We were good at a thing, and then it gets to be a flood. And then it's, short-term memory things, not our strong suit, right? So I think inside the question, there's maybe a search for how to manage the overwhelm, but also how to stop yelling at yourself for the mistakes you made yesterday, right? Because that's part of perseverate is the, oh my gosh, that dumb thing I said, I never stop thinking about it. Usually I'll get on a cycle like that because of a dumb thing I said to a person I will never see again, who therefore I can't apologize. I can't do a cleanup with it. And that just sticks in my craw. It's hard for me to put it away. But that's what we're talking about. Things that gnaw at us that we can't stop circling on it. We're not, right? That's perseverate, right? Yeah.
That's perseverate. Do you want me to give you some examples of what I do and what I suggest clients can do too when we're in the spin cycle?
Yep.
Okay. Different remedies, solutions work for different people and at different times. Sometimes we go to our toolbox and some things feel more comfortable than others. I think the first thing that comes to mind to me is the word pause. Hit pause. If you can, hit pause. And sometimes it helps to have a little, I got these index cards all over. This one is blank, but all over the place. And on my board now, I drew a pause button because I'm going to forget, Melissa. When I'm in the cycle, I can't see outside, right? So the pause, you pause. Just remember to pause. And one question you can ask yourself, I ask myself is what is this really about? What is this really? It's a deep question if we can ask ourselves. What is this really about? Another thing is to tap. I don't know if anybody taps or does EFT, because whether you actually do the tapping, okay, on the energy centers, okay, and I'm curious if anybody else does the tapping. Basically, what the script does in a tap, Melissa, it changes our narrative, but it also acknowledges where we are. So first we start off, we say, even though I have these feelings, I love and accept myself. Even though I'm feeling blah, 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 and I think I screwed up, I love and accept myself. And in the first couple of paragraphs, we're actually saying exactly how we feel. We're being raw, we're being authentic, we're being honest that we feel shame. And then we pull ourselves out. The script takes us out. The script takes us out. And I find for me, tapping is very effective at pulling me out and back
So
up.
there's something self-soothing about tapping, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Is there other self-soothing things in
Yes,
your toolbox?
absolutely.
Yeah, because the tapping sounds appealing, but I
Mhm.
feel like I don't quite know how to, I don't know how to, it's like a bicycle to me, and I don't understand how to balance on it or ride it.
Yeah,
So that's why I'm asking
yeah.
more.
So many of us have different sensory needs. Let's say I'm very sensory, and so for me, I will literally right now. It's on me right now. I have a little fan blowing right in my face. I like a little wind in my face
Yeah.
because that helps keep me focused. I'll jump in the shower. I'll go for the walk. Certain music. I'm not going to pronounce this right because I didn't prepare for this. Solfeggio. There's certain, it's not a proven science, just like EFT. Tapping is not a proven science, although in studies it can change, it can reset our emotions. But there are certain sounds, certain tunes that will help reset us and calm us down too. Right?
Mhm.
So writing pages. Does anybody here do morning pages? And I'm not really a big fan of, oh, you got to do it in the morning, and oh, you got to write X amount of pages. If I could just sit and write what I'm feeling, sometimes taking it from here to here is the answer. Anybody with us right now? Just love writing it down. And man, nobody's ever going to, where is it? I don't even have it with me here. You're going to look at my little diary, my writing pages, because you'd be like, oh man, this guy is screwed up. But you know what? I need to write big, bold letters because that's how I'm feeling. And once I get it out, it's out. We need to take it out. And that's part of unshaming too. If we're able to identify it, become aware of it, what's this really about? And then eventually, as we get better and better at recognizing it's a self-imposed shame, it's ADHD. It's not who we are. It's not an excuse. It's an explanation. It's just a behavior that just comes along with our beautiful brains that we have that have so many powerful, wonderful, beautiful, incredible benefits too. Okay, then eventually we can put it in a filing box. So I have this vision of, I have a filing cabinet in my head. It's not very big because it can't hold very much, but I do have a filing cabinet where I'm able to put the shame stuff, the negative stuff in that and close the drawer. That takes work, but isn't it beautiful when we can put it in that box, lock it up? We know it's there, which reminds me of the bus therapy. I don't know if we're going to have time to talk about that. That's ego therapy, really powerful, of all of the different stews on the bus, to recognize that we are who we are and we can never change who we are.
Well,
We can only,
right. But being our brand, our version of whatever, we're all humans. So we come from the human, we're under that umbrella. But then there's, the flavor of, right? There's this thing over here, right? The Melissa thing. I did see some other techniques people were using in the chat about the rocking chair. I will say that one came my way, and I really like the rocking chair. That's soothing to me. I'm a person who goes towards music. Sometimes some cat time or dog time, since I don't want to choose chocolate or vanilla. I'm just going to have cat and dog. But where to go for soothing. And then I wanted to say, just for myself, because I knew we were going to have this conversation around perseveration and rumination, that my husband got diagnosed first, and he has a much more, whatever the classic type ADHD, that the high energy person. When I met him, I called him Tigger, right? And so you got your Tigger there because you're Tigger to your wife. So we went to our first conference, and I came as a spouse, and one of the speakers, Ned Hollowell, spoke, and he said something about rumination, and he used that bandwidth metaphor. Hey, you could use all of your energy, all of your mind, your brain space, and think about one thing over and over. And that's the first time I thought, oh, maybe I have this thing too, because I never heard anyone ever name rumination or have that thought about a thing that you couldn't stop thinking about. So that was my first entree into maybe this ADD is a thing I have too. But we're still in the middle of this conversation around shame, and ruminating seems like it goes hand in hand with the shame. I also see in the chat people talking about you'll be anxious, you can still get yourself to sleep, but somehow those things wake you in the middle of the night, and it's hard to find a way to put the thing away and get rest. Do you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I do. ADHD or not, so many of us suffer from poor sleep, especially ADHD, because I have the same thing. If I get up at midnight, and lately it's midnight, it had been 2:00 in the morning, and then boom, the head is going, boom, 1,000 miles an hour, thinking of all the things it didn't do, could have done, should have done, need to do, want to do this, but whatever, right? And I have my own techniques too there, in terms of I saw somebody mentioned breathing, and I didn't mention it. Breathing is so powerful. That's probably the most powerful of all, because that's the air. I mean, that's life. That's life. So when we focus on our breathing, we're focusing on life itself, and taking those breaths and holding them. And there are so many different breathing techniques that anybody's watching right now, if you haven't just read about them, they're all easily accessible and adaptable, as is tapping too. And you don't actually have to physically tap. You can just listen to the script too, by the way. I'm just saying it's easier than riding a bike, by the way, Melissa. So the sleeping thing, the most important thing I've realized for sleeping, okay, is not to get angry at myself. If I start to get angry at myself for waking up every night at morning at 2:00, I will never get back to sleep. I will never forgive myself, because it's there's that shame again. I can't sleep, and I know I need my sleep, and I know I'm not going to function great the next day. So it becomes the death spiral. If you don't sleep tonight, you got to screw up tomorrow.
I found the sleep thing is 2 days. It costs you 2 days. There's the day you stayed up for that baseball game with extra innings. And then there's the day after that. It takes 2 days before you're not a crab.
Yeah, it's true. Consequences, right? Everything we're talking about has consequences. Everything, right? Also, I will try to be kind to myself. Sometimes it's not easy for some of us to say, I love myself. Sometimes it's easy to say, I like myself. I'm okay. And that's okay. And grace, big word in our world, it should be give ourselves grace. And I will get up, get out of bed. I'll walk around a little bit and get back in. I have a weighted blanket. How many of you friends have a weighted blanket? I wish it would be easy to travel with it, but it's very important for me. And a lot of times I'll have my earbuds right next to me, and I have specific music, like a group like Liquid Mind, let's say, certain types of music that it's like, it's the reflex, right? If I hear this song, I know where I'm going. I'm going to sleep. And I start, some of the meditative sleeping devices have you starting from the feet going up. Of course, I do everything different. I actually start from the head. I work my way down to, air.
These are good techniques. I have my own, where I have a visualization of something that actually occurred when I was in my 20s. It's a bright sunny day. I'm in Maine on the Rocky Coast. I'm walking. The sun filters through the forest. As I emerge into the clearing, there's an old barn. By the time I hardly ever get into the barn. I must sleep before the barn.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's great. Visualization techniques are great. Why? Because most of us are great visualizers. So use the visualization technique. That's a hard word to say. And I have a spot too that I can visualize, because I know this particular spot, I've experienced no stress, right? So here's an example of staying tethered to a happy place, a happy space.
Say more about that, tethered to happy things. How do you do that?
It takes work. It takes a decisive action to say, I'm going to work on not being tethered to, I'm going to be up all night, I'm going to sweat, it's going to be nasty, the day is ruined, I messed up, I screwed up, to I'm going to go to my happy place at the lake, where when I get up early and I watch the sunrise, I hear nothing but birds and woodpeckers, and I hear these red-tailed foxes cry. They sound like children crying, but it's not. They're just talking to each other. You know, I'm going there now, and I'm smiling. Or if I'm on an airplane, I know it sounds crazy because it's like such a stressful thing, travel. But when I'm up in the air and I'm looking out that window, I'm at peace, man. That phone's off. I really, because it's like coming down. You have so much pent up energy and you come down. So tethering to, but you have to be aware. It's all about awareness, being aware. And we all possess, I'm convinced we all possess the power to change ourselves. Yeah. Having a coach or having a prospective partner will help too, to break us out, especially to unshame. And live life with more ease, more contented, because that's the goal.
So we mentioned a couple of really useful things, this perspective partner. So where can people look for that? One, they can look where a nice coach like you, a therapist, a mental health professional, can be a place to be safe. It's got ground rules, right? There's boundaries on that. The other place I just want to put out there, right, that's, a less cost place is like a peer support group meeting. They're going to have some confidentiality rules, and other people will step out and be vulnerable first, and then you can see the space is safe. Of course, if it's your first time there, I can imagine, hey, maybe you want to see how it goes before you put out the thing you're ashamed of. But I did want to tell a peer support story in here about shame. I was leading a high IQ group, and it was a new person in the group. They kind of waited. We were about 45 minutes into the meeting, and they said, I've never been to this meeting before. I've never been around ADHDers, but when I was in college, I got overwhelmed. I stopped going to all my classes and communicating with everybody. Towards the end of the semester, I didn't want to get failures for all those classes. So I had to get incompletes and meet with all the professors. And that was a big challenge, that deadline, right? But I did make it. And there was so much shame for this person. I mean, this was serious, that was their money, their parents' money, that they almost failed, that they got these incompletes. And since I had the exact same experience, I just asked the group, is there anyone else in the room who's had this experience of shutting down and almost failing classes like that? And people came on screen. It must have been about 30 people in the room, and people put their hands up, So the vulnerability, that light going into the darkness, that became the common thing that everyone in the room had. We didn't Necessarily know it when we all stepped in there, but that was part of being in that club, that high IQ ADHD club. So many people had that experience of being overwhelmed at college and almost failing. And I was speaking at Mensa just a few months ago. I told that story, and someone in the audience went like this. So I just know that there's a lot of people with that thing that's got a lot of shame around it. And, I just want to say, I'm your people. If that's in your history, I'm your people. You're with your people, but to be in a safe space where you can talk about it and people accept you. There's nobody going, damn, that was waste of money or whatever. You're not getting that judgment thing. You're getting other people who go, oh, it's so, college is an overwhelming time. There's stuff there. Yeah.
I'd like to give an example too. So let me sort of back into this. The whole reason why this, I'm trying to champion this unshamed ADHD concept is because I'm in the process of writing a book. I've got a book in me, and Rick knows this too. He's and you, Melissa, you both have been my biggest advocates, biggest supporters. I'm calling it now 100 ADHD success stories. Okay. And whether that's the actual name, it might be, I don't, the bottom line is I want to capture these stories of ADHDers who have overcome obstacles, have had a defining moment or two, and are now living. No one's ever perfect, but it's living a slightly more contented life, a life with more ease. And I just interviewed another person last week, and this person as a child was bullied like it was nobody. Horrible, the stories he was relating. He's now in his 60s. He's found success. He's learned to forgive the ugly of his youthful days. But my point in sharing this with you is that this person in grade school was left back 2 grades because they thought this person just didn't have the brains to do it. And this person has an extremely high IQ ultimately. And it was because of just math. It was just math. They couldn't do the math. How many of us ADHDers can't do the numbers thing? That's me. Thank goodness we have RenaFi and Rick here for that, right? Can't do numbers. But that one part ended up defining his whole being left back so he couldn't achieve his incredible potential in every other category until one person came into their life, somebody who listened, who a prospective partner, right? But he didn't know, nobody knew ADHD then, and said, what are you doing being left back in remedial this, that, the other thing? You're brilliant. We'll figure out how we can help you with the math. This person is now a successfully published author and a musician, a gifted, talented, incredibly inspiring musician. What if that person never came into his life in grade school and said, what are you doing here? There's no shame in the math thing. We'll get you through. We'll figure it out. But look at all these other gifts you have. I just had to share that because it was so inspiring.
And people really resonating in the chat with that. And Einstein, I've heard the story. I have no verifying it, but it didn't tie his shoes till he was 5. Could you imagine? Well, that kid doesn't know anything. Don't bother sending him to school. It's really interesting how these learning differences people can make lots of assumptions about intelligence with these learning differences. And what's encouraging is how much more clarity about learning differences like dyslexia and dyscalculia and auditory processing, so that folks like us who aren't diagnosed with ADHD until we're adults, we think all the things are the ADHD. The more we learn, the more we can learn. I read stuff online where I can change the font and make it preferred or bigger, but I'm not that keen on reading books, and I find it very fatiguing. And so I was reading some of the things with visual processing disorder, and that's one of those things, right? So the world around us is getting more educated and has more tools that can help us. And these adaptive technology, I know that's not your suit that you wear, but there are ways that we can help ourselves if we can identify some of these differences that are there's actual technology, and then there's many, many more tools. I mean, there's a dyslexic friendly font that I was looking at, and I was like, boy, this is so much easier to read than all the other fonts. It's just terrifically helpful for us, and also to have some distinctions. The ADHD is these things, maybe these other things, because we're in lockdown, my husband and I began to think, hey, we're having a conversation about who gets to sit at the big desk, right? And have an out loud meeting. We think we know. Right? And then we find out, no, one of us did not hear the other, even though we thought we did. So there are more things, and to treat yourself like you're a mystery, or to be curious about yourself instead of, hey, I know all about me and there's nothing new happening over here. There's always a lot of new stuff. That's the appealing thing about the voice, about the little chatter in our minds. The other thing I wanted to say, just from very early on when we were chatting about the noise canceling headphones, is I have women friends whose husbands are not chatty, right? And they don't know what those guys are thinking. So I'd rather have the chatter box, so at least I know what's going on there, right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you had a thought. I know you did.
Yeah. So real quick, you had said, who do you turn to for that prospective partner, if not a coach or a practitioner, let's say? Clearly I would say somebody who you're in a circle, somebody who you really feel you can be authentic, and an absolute safe space, safe place, judgment-free zone. We've said these words before, but I hope everyone who's with us today has that one person who, and sometimes you have to set the stage. You have to say, listen, I need what do you call it, intervention, or I just need a conversation. It's just the two of us, and just let me talk. It's going to be deep here. Can you give me that? And that's the beautiful part of a loving relationship like that. It could be friends, could be family, could be partner, maybe not. Somebody who you can do that with. So prospective partner is great, because sometimes, right, when you say it, oh, I'm feeling shame about this, I screwed up, I did this, I'm beating myself up. When you say these words, you hear yourself saying it too, and it right away, because you remember we started the program today, we're in a 1 to 5. If we're in a 1, a feeling ugly, let's say, by saying it out loud, it's like releasing the pressure, right? It's no longer, we're not feeling that pressure buildup of an explosion. The other thing I just want to mention is that, and this is a big revelation to me, is the more interviews I do for my book, an underlying challenge, struggle, is shame. And that's why I need to bring these words forward. And what are the solutions here? So many stuff we talked about, but also transparency, having these conversations with somebody, taking it from here, and inviting somebody in to give perspective, to give support, to give love, so we can elevate ourselves and be in the light of someone else, a beacon who sees us and loves us, and is just going to say, you're okay. You said nothing wrong. Yeah. You did nothing wrong. 3 times to get your master's, you did it. Congratulations. We're not going to focus on the failures. We're focused on the congratulations. You did it. You nailed it.
Yeah. Well, that sort of brings me around to that. We're all human, right? We're all human, and people make mistakes, and apologizing or owning the mistakes. But there's these other things that we get shame or feel like we have to apologize for that are innate, right? Like, it's like apologizing for curly hair, right? Hey, I'm born with it. There's not I mean, I could apologize for it. I have straightened it a lot, but it doesn't 100% make sense to apologize. But if there's a mistake, if there's something that hurts somebody else, and that's the other thing I think sometimes our partners get a little frustrated with us about is we have an internal voice that's yelling at us, but sometimes we forget to say out loud, hey, I'm sorry I did that thing. Or I forgot, hey, I went to the grocery store. I know you only asked me for one thing and that's the thing I forgot, right? How will I not forget it next time, right? That's an element of it too, right? If forgetting then makes someone feel bad, right? How am I gonna keep, what tools will I use to remind myself? And, I like the low tech solution, which is a piece of paper with a list on it at the store. So I get the things I'm supposed to get.
Gotta have a list. I'm a list guy. Without a list, I'll go into that store saying, why am I here?
But I think the shame brings on some responses like the perfectionism. I'm never going to let that happen again. Right. And the perfectionism on one level gets, maybe we get good grades or maybe we are prepared at our office, but then it sounds like it's got some burden elements to it. It just feels harsh to me. I'm not a perfectionist. So looking at it from over here, I just feel like, darn, that's harsh. That's sometimes it's not going to go right.
Yeah.
Do you have any other these things where the decisions, something painful happened to us, maybe we have shame around it, and I'm not ever going to let that happen again. Ways that are healthy, not going to let that happen again things. Do you have some thoughts there?
I do. We've already talked about sharing it with a prospective partner, because that's going to change our internal narrative too. Hearing our own words, hearing it from the outside. And I think, I know it's hard for us to meditate. It really is. And if we don't choose to have a coach, let's say, and again, I'm not selling coaching here, but literally, if we're visual processors, taking a piece of paper, and because I do this, and writing, not necessarily good, bad, and ugly, but writing it to where we want to be. The whole idea, the most important thing, Melissa, is to know how we want to change the outcome, because we have a choice. We can just choose to stay here and perseverate and stay in the sad and just keep going by, and the bottom just drops out, right? Or we can say, no, I want to change the outcome. I'm going to activate and do something to change the outcome. And if we can see what that outcome looks like, if we can write it out and read it and draw an arrow. I mean, I know it sounds crazy, but actually writing it, and how am I going to get there too? I do this. I have my little notebook, my journal. Here's where I am. I'm not feeling good. I'm not pretty. I'm ashamed of something. And by the way, I'm trying to eliminate the word shame from my vocabulary. I'm trying to eliminate it, right? And then writing out so you can see where you want to be. How am I going to get there? Everyone has their own tools to do that. But to me, that's the most important thing. Some of us like reading, some of us don't. Some of us like hearing podcasts, some of us don't. Some of us will do the tapping, some of us won't. Some of us can do the meditation and quiet the mind. Another final thing I want to mention, it's a different kind of ego therapy. Anybody here with us now, have you ever heard of Feed Your Demons? Feed Your Demons. And I just wrote this down. So feed Your Demons is it's ancient wisdom resolving inner conflict. I have a dear friend, and she's I'm not selling her practice, but she's certified. And I got to do this. Like I was, just like when we coach, we have to practice. Well, before she was certified in the Feed Your Demons therapy, I was one of her practice guys. And so this is huge. I'm so glad you brought this up, and I'm so glad I remembered to share this. Feed Your Demons is actually sitting down in a meditative state and visualizing, seeing your demon, giving a name, giving a face, giving a color to your demon, perhaps that's been giving you shame all these years. That's always gnawing at you, sucking you down, sucking the life out of you, having a conversation. And instead of getting all mean and nasty and angry and I'm going to beat you up now. No, you feed your demon. You nourish it, whether it's honey, whether it's M&Ms, whether it's a cup of coffee. Because you know what? That demon, we call it a demon, but that's a part of you. It's a part of you. It will always be a part of you. So if instead of fighting each other, if we can make friends with the demon, and I've done this practice after that too, it's extremely powerful, Melissa. So for those of us who have a demon that's shaming us, activate, do something for yourself, help yourself. And maybe that's even if you read the book and you understand it and can do self therapy. But I found it to be very healing.
I went and looked it up because we had talked a little bit about this when we were preparing this Feed Your Demon, and that element that there's some part of us we dislike or don't accept, right? And that it's not going anywhere, so you may as well make friends with it, because that's our whole self, right? It is coming to terms with our whole self and embracing all of our parts. Seems like it's crucial to living a good life, to leading a happy and self-expressed life. And that's part of why the shame and the rumination and the perseveration, did I say it right? That those things are important for us to talk about in our community so that we can shine the light, own it, right? And be our full selves. It's really very important. I had used a RuPaul example because he's got a saying of "sissy that walk," which is probably a thing a person heard when they were being tortured in high school, but owning it, then you could become a superstar with your "sissy that walk," right? In the RuPaul universe, in the drag queen universe. Hopefully that doesn't offend anyone here, but these things where somebody may have poked us about it. I remember in elementary school, I was singing on my way home. My best friend's mom saw me the next day and said, "You sounded like a sick cow." And I didn't sing for years and years and years. And then I really like singing. So in high school, I know she said that, but I broke out anyway. And I took chorus towards the end. And then that became a thing that really is very, very calming for me, to be around other people. Something about singing the notes together really is soothing to me. I'm so excited that people put things that were soothing in their chat. The weighted blanket, the tapping, I put some other EFT things. Sometimes new folks come to these and they hear the smorgasbord of all the things you could do, and it overwhelms them.
Yes.
If there's one thing that sounded doable,
pick one.
You don't need to try them all. We don't want to overwhelm you with thoughts. we just want to show where our paths have come and gone, and what people can learn from them. And I'll often say I take a page out of somebody's book who's in the room. Like today, I'm taking a page out of someone in the room with my seltzer, right? And that's the thing, is when you're around other folks and you see a strategy like Stuart's strategy with his note cards, we want you to copy, because then it's going to work for you. It works for you. If you copy it and it wasn't the greatest thing, but you changed X and Y and then it worked, that's what the whole reason we're coming out to talk is to help hopefully make it easier for other people on their journey. Do you have any last thoughts? You look like you have a thought.
I do. Oh gosh, I have so many thoughts, but I also know that it's a Sunday night. So I want to share a quote that I think is very empowering and really fits well. And if we have time, let me know if I can read you my latest shun poem, The Shuns of ADHD. Every week I'm writing a new poem. But first, I want to give you the Marion Wilson quote. If we wait for the world's permission to shine, we will never receive it. If we wait for the world's permission to shine, we'll never receive it. So basically, it's an empowering phrase to say, and you said it before, own you, you do you, whatever the words, you be your authentic you. And ain't nobody out there is going to say, do this or whatever. They're not going to empower you. They're not going to, they're going to be encouragers out there, but for the most part, it's got to come from within. We have to be unshamed from within to live our fullest, truest, happiest, most contented life. So, by the way, if you're with us right now and you need permission, you still do, I'm giving it to you right now. You got permission to shine. And I would like to read you my poem. Can I read you my poem?
Of course, after we all had permission to shine, you better.
So this is the shuns of ADHD. This is on perseveration, what we talked about today. Here we go. Can you hear by how I'm talking? My words are racing quickly. Can you see by how I'm pacing? I may be acting prickly. Yes, I'm overthinking, overwhelmed by choices. Inside the arguing voices have me in a momentary cycle of spinning with my presence in a temporary state of thinning. It is perseveration, intense activation, a hyperfixation when we think thoughts over and over. And for full disclosure, it works in our favor as a creator. Still, this behavior fills us with second guesses, a circle of redresses as it all coalesces. It's our ADHD, the protector of me. So when I'm faced with the thoughts or decisions under various conditions, you can ask what I need from you, which may be a hug and warm embrace or simply some grace. Thank you. I made it through.
Beautiful. That was beautiful. You got some people choked up with your giving permission. I think that really resonated. Right there with the Rihanna song. I've got my conference hat on and I'm saying, I hope Stuart's going to do that at the talent show. Okay, sorry. Detour. All right. So we've gotten pretty close to the end of this fantastic time together. We did at the beginning, some of us who are here, we did a energy, just energy. This isn't mood. This is just energy. So 5, full of beans, ready to go, take on the world. 1, out of gas, not so much, meh, right? So where are we now? And I want to say, I feel like I'm at a 5. And I'm eager to watch the sumo because their basho just started today. So, fellow sumo lovers, come out and tell me if there's anyone who likes sumo. All right, so here we are. We've got a lot of people pretty high up on the scale. Thanks for sharing that with us. Let's do a couple of announcements. Okay, so thank you so much for being here. My next guest is going to be Dr. Janet Flayton, and we're going to be talking about the pain and gain of ADHD, a different slice of this apple. I do want to say that RenaFi has got an ADHD self-care Facebook group. I'm going to put the link in the chat. And so each week we do a different challenge. Last week was cleaning off your phone. This week, I don't know. I'm going to have to stay tuned to find out what it is. We have a new course that's starting on September 25th about the ADHD tax. And if you'd like to learn more about that, here is the link. Here's that. Okay. So let's say some more things upcoming at RenaFi, things for subscribers to RenaFi. Sorry, cheat sheet. I like to tell you that I'm not magically doing it. I have a script here. Okay, so Monday, I invite you, if you are a RenaFi member or are going to be trying RenaFi, to my Success Clinic. That is at 7 p.m. Eastern and 4 p.m. Pacific. And that is a place to find support and community, share your feelings, be heard and accepted, and connect with peers. Also, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, join me for a 30-minute meditation. That's noon Eastern time, 9 a.m. Pacific. And we're just going to do meditation, and we have a moment to reflect so that you can do a little verbal processing with how it goes for you. Tuesday, you could also join me for our sleep routines accountability group, and that is 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. Get support for this challenging habit to build, and as we increase awareness and focus on this foundational self-care routine. Also, Tuesdays at RenaFi is real world budgeting. That is 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. And there are office hours with Rick on Wednesday and Sunday. And Fridays, we alternate between an accountability group and body doubling. That alternates. So at RenaFi, we teach about the underlying drivers of our behavior, and that knowledge leads to better decisions, and better decisions lead to improved quality of life. Visit RenaFi.com to discover how you can experience financial wellness. All right. Okay, get your money back if you're not delighted at RenaFi. I love that. That is just fantastic. And if you noticed here that people were terrifically helpful with looking things up and also patting each other on the back and relating to each other, and there's a really nice community, that is what you will find when you are in RenaFi programs and doing RenaFi events. All right, and thank you so much, Stuart, for coming here, really being very, very vulnerable and energetic and inspiring. And I just thank you so much for giving us permission. Sometimes we just need to hear it. Really very grateful to have you here.
You are most welcome. It is my honor, truly, to be here with you today. I'm so grateful to you, to Rick, RenaFi, and to everyone who spent this time together. Thank you.
All right, everybody, have a good week. We'll see you next week.
Thank you, Stuart.
And if you want to reach out to Stuart Cohen to be one of his 100 success stories, how would they do that?
Yeah, I didn't even make up a slide. Basically, my website is ADHDasaskillset.com, or I'm ADHDlifecoachstuart.com. You could try that too. But Instagram too, ADHD Life Coach Stuart. If you just remember that, I'll pop up somewhere, get in touch, and we'll have a conversation.
That's terrific.
Thank you.
Oh, I love this from in the chat. Shine on. All right.
Shine on.
Hi, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Subscribe now.